Hi everyone, my name is Aparna Bhatia, as Rishabh mentioned. Today we're kind of going to actually going to show you how to do a few of these things. So we're going to learn how to start a Revit project so that you can use that as a base to create your future MWF projects or to frame your future MWF projects. Um, okay. And then we are also going to learn to import like sizes and types that are needed for your templates. We're going to learn to create a custom template with those sizes that we imported. And then I'm going to also go through how to create custom markers and then apply those markers manually to your openings, and also automating them by creating rule sets. So already creating templates and markers automates your process, but to apply those markers sometimes can be a manual process. So I'm going to show you how to automate that as well by creating rule sets. So let's get this party started. Okay. So here you'll notice I have nothing open. I honestly wanted to start from scratch like I probably would for an implementation project. But the first thing I have to consider is, are you working with wood or steel? So for today's webinar, we're going to work with steel. So every single time, what I would do is I'd go to File, I'll go to New, and I'll just click on New Project. Okay. Even though I'm creating a new project, I have the option here to create a new project template. So right now I'm working on templates. I'm creating a project template. So let's go ahead and create a project template. If you are steel, I recommend starting from the Autodesk defaults or Autodesk Revit, the defaults that they provide. Um, that's the commercial template over there if you're using steel. And if you're using wood, I would recommend starting with the residential template. The only reason is because they already have the preset wall thicknesses or structural layer thicknesses, because for wood, you'll have a 3.5, say if it's a 2x4, you'll have a 3.5-inch thickness for your structural layer. For steel, if it's 4 inches, it's 4 inches. That's it. So they already have a few walls pre-created for you. So if you're in wood, residential, steel, commercial, doesn't matter even if you're doing commercial projects with wood. It's just that it has the wall types that you need. Okay, so let's go inside commercial template here and let's go. Okay. So as I mentioned, it already has a few different wall types. So I'm just going to quickly show you what those are. So if we go under families, we go under walls, and then we go under basic walls. Here you can kind of get a look at what all types of walls they have. My favorite wall to use, if you've ever watched any of my other webinars, it's always exterior brick on metal stud. And the only reason I like using that wall is because you can clearly tell where's the exterior side, where's the interior side. And if I'm ever setting up my templates and my rule sets and fun things like that, I need to make sure the exterior side of my window is identified when I'm setting things up, so I know which way my panel is going to be looking when I'm setting up my shop drawings and fun things like that. It's great to work with interior walls, but it's sometimes really hard to tell which side visually is clearly the exterior side. I mean, obviously, if you click on it, it will show the little arrows, but that's it. So my favorite wall is exterior brick on metal stud. So I'm just going to create an instance of this wall right now and just show you what it has. So when I draw it out, all my plan views, I always set it to fine. I always have my scale. I typically like to keep it at 3/8 because I use this view as my base to set up my view template for my shop drawings. But that's only when I'm setting up the templates. And then when I actually set up the views for documentation, I'll actually adjust the scales before I save this as my template. Okay. So typically I like to set it the scale that I'm probably going to set my views in my shop drawing. So usually 11 by 17 is 3/8 inch scale. Also, another thing this allows me to do is to check the scale of my text, the size of my text, and what it will look like on my shop drawings. Okay. So basically that's why so the reason I like this is because you can clearly see that's the brick and that's the structural layer. Come here, let's go take a look at the wall inside. Over here, you'll notice there's only a single structural layer and it is nothing complicated. It is a very basic wall. But the best part about this that I like at least is that it has a substrate layer and it has a finish layer, right? So if I was setting up my gypsum board, or sorry, if I was setting up my OSB, zip, or plywood templates, I have a layer to apply it to. If I was setting up my like gypsum board, type X templates versus regular templates, it has a layer for me to test it out on, right? So I know the materials for these are different, so I know the materials when they apply on my sheathing elements will be different. So it's very clear to see that um, this is the exterior versus the interior. Especially when you're setting up your sheathing, it's really nice to be able to tell them apart. Okay, so that's why I like this wall. Also, it's very easy to clear. It's a lot more layers on the exterior side. You can easily use the air layer to put in like furring if needed. Those kinds of templates. So that's why I kind of like this wall as my baseline. It's really weird to say that there's a favorite wall, but that's my favorite wall. But that's basically what it is. And I like to open up the families portion here just so that I know what's in my project. So maybe you're only doing interiors and you don't really care about any of the masonry. Feel free to get rid of them. You don't need them in your template. It's okay. Just get rid of them. I like to keep the masonry there, or mason, not really masonry, but the generic ones over there, just in case I don't want to use an existing wall that I already have as a baseline. I want to use something super basic, nothing complicated, just the generic 6-inch or just the generic 4-inch. I will keep those there, but the rest I'll usually get rid of. And the generic 12-inch I keep only for foundations if I need to draw any interior layers for foundations, like furring for foundations. So that's basically what I do. I review my walls that I have here, see what I need to keep for my typical projects. I will not get rid of it just because my immediate project does not need it, right? This is a template. We're trying to set it up to be able to accommodate every project that we might get. Obviously, we cannot cover every single situation. It's good to think about, it's good to like evaluate what is your typical project, what would you typically need to have in there, right? So if you're always going to have a brick wall or a siding wall, keep that in there. If you're once in a while going to have a brick wall, okay, we might not need it. We might just create it custom for that specific project later on. Okay, just some things to consider. Okay, so now that we've created a template project, we are just reviewing everything that we have. The second thing I mentioned is we need to make sure that we have, I'll just bring this over. We need to make sure that we have our sizes, types that we want for templates. So this could mean anything from, hey, I need a garage door. I need doors that are XYZ size. I need windows that are XYZ size. I need wall types that have we only do 3/5/8. I need wall types that have 3/5/8 structural layer with sheathing on one side, with sheathing on both sides, with sheathing and gyp on one side. All of those, you collect all of those in one area. So one template, you'll collect all of those different things in one template, so that in the future, when you have to use it, you just have to use it. You don't have to go insert it again, modify it, and see if it frames properly and all that stuff. Especially when it comes to custom families, always a good idea to test it out in the template first, frame it with MWF and see what happens, right? It's always good to figure out the solution earlier before, instead of like getting into a project with really strict deadlines and all of a sudden you're like, I don't have time to build this family. So yeah, and I'm pretty sure we all have been there. And we, instead of fixing it, we'll just, fake it. And I recommend not faking it because you want everything to be accurate with MWF. You are producing these studs. You are, using these studs, or even if you're ordering these studs, you need them to be an accurate size. So if you're faking anything, it could cause your bill of materials to be incorrect, right? So it's just to avoid that risk at all costs and avoid change orders and, additional costs because of that. I like making my view shaded, and I like to make my walls transparent in this current view, just so that it is nice and clear. So whenever I place my MWF things or members in there, they are visible. I know exactly where they're located and all that fun stuff. So now that we have the wall, let's go bring in, well, we can draw a few walls actually. Let's go ahead and create instance. Let's draw this one. That's the only thing I don't like about this template is that the wall naming conventions for the interiors, it's 618, but that doesn't tell me what's the interior layer thickness. So I have to kind of go figure out what that thickness is by actually checking this out. But the benefit of our multi-layer template maps is that it tells you the structural layer thickness, so you can kind of get away with just using them. So I'll create another instance here. It's fine. Okay. So I like to create a few walls that I'm actually going to be using, or I might need to be using, and or I might be using, and then I know these are the templates I kind of have to create, no choice. Okay. So let's go ahead and insert a few things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and insert. If I ever want to load in families, like if I want to have openings and fun things like that, I can go to load Autodesk family. Most cases we can handle them, but if you don't really care about, I'm just going to go to United States here. If you don't really care about the actual frame and all the little nitty-gritty things in there, then you can always just load in the window square opening, and that will allow you to create majority of your window openings, windows rough openings, right? That's my favorite one that I like to load in because it's nice, it's clean. All it has is the opening cut, and especially when you're on site, you don't really need to see these additional frames that are going to be around there and fun things like that. Sometimes the visuals get very confusing. So I like to load this one in. Feel free to load any others in. You can load in like, try not to load these instance ones in, but feel free to load in like a regular window, like trim exterior, flat, uh, interior, trim interior window, fun things like that. Load in whichever ones you like. I've done window fixed before. I've done single hung, double hung windows before. So feel free to load in whichever ones you like. Again, just review them and make sure that they are framing correctly with MWF. So I'm just going to load those two in and hit load. You can load in your sizes. So for now, I'm going to do the 36 by 60, 48, 36, and I'll do the 24 by 60, 48, and 36. Okay, so those are loading in. And I always like to stay in this window so that I can double check if everything I have chosen has come in. So we said window fixed. We have those sizes, window square opening. This automatically brings in these sizes, so that's totally fine. That's one. Then we again load in doors and all that fun stuff. So let's go, oops, sorry. Let's go ahead and load in a garage door just so that we have some larger openings available for us to do rule sets. Okay. Let's do overhead rolling and door opening. You can do one of these glass doors too, why not? Okay. So load them in, pick your sizes. Again, 96, 80, 96, 80, 96, 84, 80, 84, 80, 84, 84. There, done. Let's go ahead and do that. Load some doors in. Okay, again, just go double check under doors if that's brought in properly. So door opening automatically brings things in. And then the passage door with two lights we loaded. This is what it is. And you can see the little image on the side here to confirm. And then the overhead door is over here, 168 by 168. Okay, so now that we have our Revit stuff loaded in, now let's consider what we want to bring in for MWF. So we're going to hit load family. In most cases, you'll have your MWF Pro Metal, Pro Wood little folder here. If you don't, then you can navigate to it. It's in the C drive and program data Strucsoft. So you'll be able to find it there within the respective years. Okay, so then here we'll go inside Imperial because I'm in an Imperial project. I can choose whether I want to bring in manufacturer studs. So if I know I'm going to be working with Howick machine, I'll bring in Howick studs. If I know I'm going to be doing FrameCAD, I need to bring in FrameCAD members, right? So I can go navigate to FrameCAD and load those families in as needed. Okay, so that's basically what I'll do. So I can bring in the Howick ones if I want, or I basically want to do my standards because I'm not sure which machine I want to use right now. I can just go with my basic BIMSF SSMA-S and the BIMSF SSMA-T. Okay, so that's my S track with the C profile with lips, and this is just my C profile. Okay. So now for the T, I can load in the sizes that I want. So I'm gonna do I'm gonna do a 162 size. Then I'm gonna do a 250. Let's do 33, 43, 54, 68. And then I'm gonna do a 350. No, 362. Let's do 362 T 150 and those four sizes again. And then for the 600s, I always like to load in the 250s and the 200s. Well, it depends again what sizes you need for your project. If you're doing the smaller ones, feel free to do the smaller ones, not a problem. I can do that as well. Don't think I have a 800 wall right now drawn in, but I'll just bring in some 800s just in case we may have like a chase wall or something that gets drawn in. Okay, so that's that. And then for the S family, again, I'm going to load in the 162s. Then I'm going to load in the 250s. And then I'm going to load in the 362s, but 200s. I'm going to do that. And 162s. And basically just keep loading in families that you need for your project. Again, if you don't think that you need them and you imported too much, feel free to get rid of them. It's not like it's mandatory for them to stay. Your template should be ever changing because your company is ever changing. Sometimes maybe you started with renovations and now you can actually do full on commercial projects. Fine, your company is changing, your template needs to change. It's totally okay. Okay, so load those in, and again, like I said, double check if they exist. So for all of our families, they always should be structural framing, at least after 8444. That's our standard now. So you should have all of these families loaded in. So you can see there's a lot of them. And over here also, there's a lot of them. So we have a 162, 250, 362, 600 template, and a 800 template. So what we can do now is once we have those, let's start creating custom templates. And like I said, I always like to use the Revit brick wall for this. So we can just start with our basics. So let's start with create. Okay. I always create basically I always create the defaults because this is a 6-inch wall. I know that. So I always start with the light gauge default. and I start with that as my baseline, and then I duplicate it as I need or as I want to. So I'll go ahead and hit the create button here, let it create the template, and then I'll create a custom version of it. Okay, so I'm going to basically update a few things in here and then save it as my custom template. So I can add in a bunch of things, like I can change my vertical columns to be 600s 200 if I want to. I can have my top track be 200-43, my bottom, oh sorry, that's my bottom track. And then my top track also be 600T 200-43 if I want. Actually, let's make the bottom 68. There you go. Okay, so I can make those changes as I need. And then I can move on to the next one, which is structural here. If I wanted to adjust any extensions or heights, if I want to set my minimum cripple length to 3 inches, for example, I can do that here. Set my offsets for top. If I have a curb underneath, I can basically do an offset bottom. And then if I have any settings in here that I want to modify, I can feel free to modify them. I can add like horizontals, I can add a bunch of fun things. We have a bunch of other webinars you can refer to in order to know which tools you might need to use or you might need to add depending on your needs, right? So that's that. Okay, I'm going to basically go to template. I'm going to create a new folder. I'm just going to say new, and I'll just call it MWF underscore webinar. Okay. I like to also keep my naming convention zero. I like to have 00 in the front, just so that it's always there. And that's my custom or my company's custom templates folder. So I'll close that. And in here, I'm going to basically save as, and then I'm going to just call it 600 600s 200-43 at 16 inches OC. Oh, OC. There you go. That's my first template created and ready to use. Okay. I can keep creating more, but just for the sake of the time, I'm actually going to duplicate these ones and put them in my folder just so that we can use them. So, oops, sorry, I actually forgot to do one more thing. Once I do that, I have to hit update, yes, and then I can set it as active, close the other work I'll do in there in the template manager. So it's a good way to check your members and see if they look great or not. Again, it's your choice if you want to enable your settings for project material scheme. I am going to set this to 1/256. Settings, project material scheme, thickness range, yes. And I'm going to switch this to cyan. It's just easier for me to see the 33s. I switch it to cyan, apply scheme, and hit OK. So all I have to do is I can go to 3D for this and regenerate this panel. There you go. So that's our panel now, and this is basically what it looks like. Okay, let's add in a window in here. So I'm going to add in the window square opening. I can add in gonna add in a 16-inch opening as well. Try to make sure that kind of sits inside here. I might actually change, no, that's fine. So we can do that. Maybe make it a longer, there. Let's make it a taller opening like that. We can also do a door. We can do the passage door if you like. And then we can also do another door and we can make that the garage door. Oh, wow, that's a little large for my wall, but We'll make the wall larger. Don't tell anyone. But basically, I want to try to make this wall able to frame all my openings. So I'll again do a door. Let's drop in the garage door. I mean, it looks totally fine, but I'm pretty sure I need to make this like 5 foot taller or something like that, and then regenerate. Okay, so we're gonna wait on that. There you go. So by default, you guys must have already noticed that, oh, uh, did it still not, did I still not, no? What happened? There you go. That looks better. So basically, you might have noticed that we have, probably that's the other way. There you go. That makes more sense. Um, we have like a few openings here, and it automatically frames those openings for us, right? So if we want to frame it any different way, we need to apply markers to them. So for example, I'm just going to put you there for now. For example, I want to create a marker for this door. Maybe I want it to be a box header. So let's go into Marker Manager and oops, obviously first thing you need to do is load data. I didn't do what I always tell everyone to do. Once you load data, you'll actually notice that your marker manager is a lot more populated. You have a lot more options to modify and fix things. And there's also a lot of custom markers you can create, right? So depends on what your needs are. We can create a box header. We can create a truss. We can create a truss header. We can also create like a typical header with just cripples, or maybe the cripples are back to back. Or we might have triple kings on either side. So many different random options that we have available to us. So I'm just waiting for this to load so that I can get started on that. Okay, there. One more thing I'm going to do is there is something I want to show you for this opening. So I'm actually going to change my spacing. I completely forgot. So let's go into miscellaneous. I'm just going to change it to 2 feet for now. And if anyone has gotten training with me already, you know what I'm doing. But if you haven't, this is a little thing that I do. Okay, so I like to move this opening inside here, and it's fine, I'll regenerate it later. So now let's go inside our marker manager and create some markers, okay? So here you'll notice we have all of our defaults. For me, since I have Pro Suite, I have wood and steel showing up. But for you guys, you'll only have wood or steel. If you have Pro Metal or Pro Wood, or even Advanced Metal, you'll only see LGS. Okay, so let's start with our first one, which is our multiple built-up member system marker. My normal rant that I always make, always, or not rant, but it's my number one rule, always duplicate, never replace whatever we give you by default. Okay, so we'll duplicate it, we'll call it whatever we need. So I'm gonna call it, let's say SSS, okay, Strucsoft Solutions. So assess member built up. I would say name it a lot better than this. You can say a 600S box header, something like that. But it's just for the sake of time, I don't want to come up with random names. Come on, you can open up faster. There you go. So here we can choose what we want. I'm going to just stick to our box header. We do give you a lot of options for the different types of box header. I'm just going to stick with option 1. And with these box headers, they are size specific. So if you do have specific sizes you want to create, make sure you enable those. If you don't want the cripple track to be specified by you and you want it to be customized by the template, you can uncheck that. Okay, so you don't need to create a cripple track there. If you want to, and then basically we'll follow whatever your header size is inside your template. Okay. Over here are inner horizontal studs. These guys, I guess, we need to specify the sizes for them. So we'll just go with 600S 200-54. And then over here, horizontal tracks, it will follow whatever's inside your template if you uncheck it. So I'll let it do that. And then there is add clip to bottom and top of header. Let's go ahead and add that clip. You can also make the header itself a subassembly, okay? So let's go into our top. We don't want it at the top of the panel. We want it in the top of the opening for the garage door is what I'm building this for. We'll go with the sill. For the sill, I just wanted to be a basic track. Don't override any of my settings. I just wanted to create the sill based on whatever I have specified in my template. Actually, I can even just uncheck this. So if it's nothing different, so there. For my kings, I want them to be built up. I want them to be double C-jam like this. For the sizes, I'm just going to specify, let's say 600S 200-68, 600S 200-68. Okay, so those are the sizes, and then we don't have a jam track because we didn't use the built-up C-stud jam, okay? And then for the jack studs, I don't want to override anything, okay? And rough openings, I can specify if I want to use the rough openings or if I want to use the actual width and height dimensions of the opening. And if your width and height dimensions are not accurate and you're not using rough openings, then you can use these tolerances. But again, I always recommend against using these tolerances unless you really, really have to, or if it's that marker is only being created for a special case scenario. The only reason is we're trying to templatize things, we're trying to make things typical. So the more I restrain it or I constrain it with like, oh, you know, from the top of the opening, it always has to be 6 inches. If it's a default for the project, great. But you never know how the openings are built if you're using the architect's openings, but if you're bringing your own in, totally fine. But just be mindful when you use this, it's going to happen at every opening, right? So that's basically what that is. And then we have control joints. So if you wanted to add control joints for the top and the bottom, like additional cripples, you can. I don't really need to add them for this garage door. It's a very short space at the top, so I'm not really concerned about it. I'll just leave it as empty. And then you can specify your cutbacks if you do have any specific cutbacks you want to have for your headers and cells. Feel free to use this. Okay. So that's your marker one over there. And then the second marker I'm gonna create is the second marker I'm going to create is basically based off of the LGS default non-bearing. And basically, again, duplicate, and we're just going to call it SSS dash. Okay, so over here, you can basically take a look and see what options we have. So we have quite a few. Again, we have another webinar that you can watch for learning how to use these settings. There's stretch to nearest, there's do not frame between studs. And if you hover over it, it kind of gives you a little like sentence on what it's meant to be used for. Again, your tolerances, like I showed you in the other screen, this is kind of like your tolerances here, similar to that. And then you'll notice that these are grayed out, right? Since these are grayed out, that basically means it's going to use whatever's inside the specified inside the Revit template. So what that means is I can use the number of members, or I can add the number of members in here in order for it, and also the orientation of the members, and then I can tell it to use the members that I've specified inside my template. So then I can use this marker for a 6-inch, 4-inch, 3-inch, or 3/5/8 inch, and a 162-inch wall, or 1.62 wall, which is 1/5/8. So I can specify the number of members I want in here, and a number of jacks, number of kings, number of headers, number of sills, and their orientation. And then I can have it basically save the way I like it. Okay, so I can basically add another, let's add another header, inverted, add, let's add another sill, add, let's add kings on both sides, add. I want 3 kings. Actually, maybe not 3, that's a little too much. Uh, we have a little too many openings in here, so I want it to be nice. Okay, and then I also want to add a jack. Okay, so I want to add extra jack. Let's do that. And it's inverted as well. Inverted basically means that the hard side is going to be flush with the window or the door edge. Okay, or it's going to be parallel, or yeah, it's going to be flush. I would say flush, or it's inverted in that way. Okay, you can, and the benefit of this is if I wanted to add additional members on the left side versus the right side, I could do that here. And this is also when your exterior and exterior and interior side of your walls comes in handy to know exactly which is which. Okay, so I have that one there, and we'll go ahead and hit OK. And I'll hit update marker, so that's my SSS. And then we have some openings that kind of just fall between studs. So that's where we have this LGS, ignore openings between studs. Again, I like to duplicate it even if I'm not modifying it, just because in case I decide that I want to have additional members being added to the side of this, I'm not modifying the default. I'm just going here and modifying this marker, so I don't have to go change it in the rule set. Then I don't have to go change it in the marker in the openings itself. So I'm already customizing it in my way. So if I do want to modify it further, it's already available for me to modify. So this one, nothing fancy. It just says do not frame between studs. Totally fine. Okay, let's do that. All right. So we have 3 markers created. What other openings do we have? So we have a door, this and this, and yeah, we should be good for now. So we have 3 markers created, and we're ready to go. There's also multiple openings marker, but you'll notice that that's only for wood. In steel, if you wanted to do multiple openings, oops, sorry, it's we typically use the merged openings option here, and you'll notice there's a frame multiple openings as single openings, so you can use this functionality for that. And also you'll notice in the rule sets we have something called horizontally aligned, vertically aligned. If you frame multiple openings as a single opening, it will actually apply this marker over top of, let's say you have three openings side by side. It'll apply this marker and create a single header for all 3 openings, a single and a single, king on either side as the base default marker. Okay, so you have that option available. I mean, I can probably add double kings to this, but again, this is the default. I don't want to modify it, so we'll leave that. We currently don't have any merged openings, but if you wanted to, we could add them in after, or you could add them in after. So we can go ahead and hit OK. And my way of double checking is always test it out first. So let's apply the marker here for SSS multiple built up and see if it gives me any problems. Let's apply the marker for this to be SSS default non-bearing. And also, if I'll just undo that change right now. I can multi-select multiple openings and add markers to them too. So I want SSS use LGS default. And then for this one guy, I'm going to basically apply the opening type and say ignore openings between studs. Okay. I also wanted to mention, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask in the questions box, and I will try to respond to them as at the end of the session. So we'll go ahead and we'll regenerate this wall. And this is just my way to make sure that the markers are working. So when I do the rule sets, I'm not blaming the rule sets for being wrong. I know that the markers are broken or something like that, right? So I have my little box header here with the clips. I have the kings that I added in. Did I mess something up? I might have selected the wrong size in that marker. Let me just quickly, no, yeah, marker manager. Let me just quickly fix that marker. And you'll notice over here, these guys are using whatever is specified in the template. So we'll come back and take a look at that too. So just quickly select, no, this guy here. Always good to double check. Aha, there you are. The culprit. Oh, it was 250. Okay, let's do 250.68. Okay, okay, okay. So now I updated the marker. That should be good. There seems to be something going on here, so I'm going to take a look. Maybe change the opening to be a regular door. And whenever I typically build a template, I like to, it seems to be doing something weird. Okay, let me just switch it to a single flush door. Let's say this size, okay? And then let me just refresh this, regenerate this wall. The rest of them seem to be good. This one's not framing when it's in between studs. This one seems to be framing just fine. I might make that there. It's okay. But you see that the headers here are actually blue. That means they're 63, they're 33 mil thickness. So I forgot to go change the opening markers or opening settings when I actually was setting up the template. So let's go to properties, miscellaneous. We are going to go to opening framing. When we go to the openings tab and say use for all openings, this is where we tell it to update. This is where we update that setting. So I'm going to just do a 600 T 200-68. Same thing for the sill. And then for the kings, you can either leave them blank so that they follow whatever your typical default studs are. But if you want them to be customized, you can choose your sizes as needed. That's a 243 for the king and the jack. Okay, so those are my sizes. I said use for all openings, so that way but if I wanted it to be different for doors versus windows versus like rectangular straight wall openings, I can actually uncheck that and actually set up the setting for each one of those. But for right now, in the essence of time, I'm just gonna do it this way and hit OK and hit close. Sorry, hit OK. All right. So now that we have our first test done, what we can do now is set up a rule set test. So what I like to do is take this wall, copy it, move it up, or move it actually to the side so we can compare them. Okay. And then I like to select both of them, and I like to have them available in 3D. And for all of these openings, I like to filter the openings out, so windows and doors. Go to MWF, apply opening type, and make sure it's all set to blank, because I don't want any markers applied to these openings when I'm actually using a rule set. Okay. So now I can basically go ahead and create this wall. Actually, before I do that, let me save this as a template. Update. Yes. Close. Okay. Okay, that's done. So now let's go in here and apply that template. Set as active, close, okay, or sorry, create. Wow, okay, they're done. So we are done creating that wall. Oh, it framed it. Why did you frame it? Oh, well, we haven't applied the fun things yet, so that's why. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and create our rule set. Go to Marker Manager. And then we're going to go to Project, and then we're going to go to Wall Opening Mapping. So over here, you'll see there's wall opening. It's empty, but I like to leave that as my default or my backup in case something gets corrupted. It's Revit, you never know. So I always like to have a copy of it. I can just call it SSS, rule sets or wall opening, whatever you want to call it. And the order of operations here is very, very important. So if you have any specialized conditions like, hey, if it's this specific window in this specific wall, I want you to place this kind of marker on it. But if it's anything else, then it's something, then you can do whatever you like. So you always have to do the more specific settings first or options first, and then you can have whatever as your general rule of thumb. Okay, so I'll show you how to do that. So we'll go ahead and add. So I'm going to add a rule first for the door because I want to add the rule for the garage door first. Okay, so I can either add it by opening width, by door type, or door opening or opening height. Okay, I'm going to go with door type and then select the door, the overhead rolling door here. And honestly, just choose the marker that I want with it. So if I want the multiple built-up system marker to apply to that specific door, I'm going to create this specific condition first. I like to write a description usually, so I'm just going to write a garage door here and hit OK. So that's basically it there. So you can see the marker, you can see your little description, and you can see which level it's on and fun things like that. Okay. Again, we're going to add. And then we're going to add another single door because we have another door in there as well. And we're going to go with opening width. So maybe you have like ranges that you have to follow. So in this case, my range is going to be from 0 till, let's say, 5 feet. I wanted to frame with the SSS default non-bearing marker. Okay, I can add a note, but it's okay. Single window, I want to go by opening width. So if it's between 0 and 2 feet, I wanted to apply the SSS ignore openings between studs. But if it is anything between 2 foot 1 inch, all the way to like maybe let's say 6 feet, I wanted to apply the SSS default non-bearing. Okay, I typically write the ranges here, but I just want to show you how this works. So I'll just go ahead and hit OK. Okay, that's good to go. Hit OK. All right, and then over here, what we're going to do is go to the properties of the panel. I can save this rule set as part of my template. Okay, so what I can do here is go inside opening framing. I'm going to use the use opening mapping rule set, and I'm going to use the rule set that I wanted to use. Okay, and hit OK. I'm going to apply it first, see how it works, and then save it as part of my template. But other than that, that's pretty much the process. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. But you can see here, it created the box header. This created the default openings, default non-bearing marker. It followed the rules for that. And this one is just ignored between studs. So if it's actually not in between studs, I was to move this over, it would actually frame it. So let me just go into properties, template, this one, update, yes. Okay, set as active, close, okay. And you'll notice that it gets framed. There you go. And again, my last test is to test the test wall. So I'll bring that over here, go into a 3D view, and just double check if everything that I've done and said has been saved to the template. Set as active, close, create. And I do this with almost every template whenever I do implementation for clients. So it actually I make sure that everything is done correctly, because if you don't double check, there's like you don't know what went wrong, and if you don't test it, you won't know what went wrong. So I do this for every different type of wall and fun things like that. So that's pretty much it for today's webinar. If any questions, feel free to ask.